this episode is a bit about wounding less. This episode's, and until you get rid of, this is great. Let me circle back. Until you deal with that angry guy, and until you recover,
that passive guy or whatever he looked like,
right.
yeah.
But until you begin to experience, some deeper healing, that guy, that false self, that caricature, that false self part of you that's not you but is at work in you is gonna make sure there's lots of those moments.
Yeah.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoe's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful ends for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Hanging out with SJ Jennings and talking about fatherhood, talking about being a dad and the role of a lifetime.
It is. It is. Yeah, I was just trying to think of, I just realized I had my giant Red Sox endorsement on, and thinking about how Steven's a Red Sox fan because I'm a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how that rolls, right?
Yep.
Generational blessing and cursing.
Oh, yeah. I think of many examples of that not working in the favor of generational spaces as fathers pass down and bestow.
It's funny. I saw him. He sent me a picture. He and my daughter-in-law Autumn went to a Phillies game in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
They didn't have any Red Sox stuff on. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, you're at a different ballpark with a different team, not wearing any Red Sox stuff. Are you breaking? I just went on this whole thing, and he thought I was totally serious.
I was going to say, it's Philadelphia. It's
you
it's
don't
not
want to
like
walk
when we
around.
went to Baltimore.
No.
Oriole fans are like, nice, hey. But no, Philly fans might push you over the edge of
you might get shanghaied.
It was, speaking of fathers and their sons. So I saw this reel on Instagram. They were two kindergartners, not the AI thing,
right?
Where they're doing babies and stuff now, which is just crazy.
Which is just a rehab. Remember the old E-Tray?
Oh yeah, it's so
commercials.
Yes, yeah. So
like 10,
and it's
20
so
years
funny.
Ago. Anyway, go ahead.
So two kindergartners, they're doing snack time, and this one they're talking. It's somehow one of the kids says, and so go Gators, and it says Gators, go Gamecocks.
Yeah.
and I can't even do it
justice.
justice.
They're like 5 years old.
Yeah, they're 5, and they're going back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering, all right, Grandpa?
Oh, yeah.
Dad?
Dad, yep.
Where, and these are, kids in the same, SEC, obviously, somewhere. So, anyway, these persuasions, right, and the effect of a father on little hearts.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to, I think this is the session that we're going to try to bring, some different equipment and encouragement,
some practical
trying to bring
ideas,
some. How do you do this better? How do you do this well? How do you do this differently? And before we take the break, I think the one thing that we've said many times, I think we said it already in another podcast. In this, actually, we did in this series is the biggest thing you can do for your kids' hearts is for you to go to God.
Yeah.
And get your heart back, for you to go and get free of anything and everything that's in the way of you receiving the love of the Father and being fathered by God. That's just a tremendous position from which to fight for their hearts. And so, there's a book, Heart of a Warrior. There's a book, King Me. There's podcasts that we've done It's very much about what we talk about. And then I think what's so great about this series is the application of that in this role that you have as a father.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Gary Barkalow saying, it's not a calling, it's a role.
Right. It's not the glory of your life.
Right. It's the
role
you play.
Right.
And you're assigned to the Jennings family, and to Stephen. I'm assigned to the Thompson girls, and the role I bring my glory, I bring the goodness that God has entrusted to me as His image bearer to these roles. So if that's a little like, wait, what did you say? Or if that's intriguing in any way, I'd say, all right, you got some other podcasts to listen to.
Right.
But before we take a break, right, let's just fast forward to this place of that's what your kids need, is a dad who is walking with God for healing, for training, and to be initiated and validated by God gives you the equipment, the ability, the perspective in which you can then initiate and validate your sons and daughters. If they're little, great. Get in that game early. If they're older, then you can actually the same pursuit of intimacy with God will equip you to recover ground that you lost, because you've lost ground. The enemy's this good.
Oh yeah.
At taking the relationship, the significant relationship between father and sons and father and daughters, and hijacking it.
I knew I lost ground, but I didn't know how much ground I had lost until I went to recover. Yeah. Right? I mean, I just didn't have the perspective or the understanding.
Yeah. And it may take a while for your kids to be understanding or even want to forgive you for some of the things that caused harm, or I think in many cases as fathers we've made our kids to some degree afraid of us with the big prowess.
When that's convenient for us, we do that.
Especially in the demanding of respect or demanding of obedience or
behavior.
Yeah, anything that is immediate coercion to get in line and just avoid all context of whatever's going on. One of my most embarrassing stories for sure was my oldest
we were supposed to take a break.
Oh.
You're going to tell that story when we come back from the break.
Okay, then we'll be right back on the Exploring More podcast.
Every great adventure starts with preparation, a place to gather, rest, and equip ourselves for the journey ahead. In the same way, Zoe's Base Camp is here for you, an online resource library created to encourage and strengthen Zoe allies on the road to deeper connection, healing, and restoration. A base camp is a staging ground, a place to prepare for the next leg of your expedition. At Zoe, Base Camp is a resource library designed to help you and our allies gear up for the journey of the heart. It is packed with devotionals, discussion guides, and podcasts to help you deepen your relationship with God and one another. When you visit Base Camp, you'll find a growing collection of resources, each crafted to guide you and the men in your circles on your walk with God. Each series that you find below includes a devotion plan with supplemental video content from the Exploring More podcast. The devotionals are designed for both personal reflection and small group discussions, helping you dig deeper into God's truth while building meaningful relationships. On the Base Camp website, you will see the various series that we have available. When you click on a series, you'll have the opportunity to download the PDF devotion plan and the discussion guide questions. This also includes an invitation to reflect in time alone with God. Share the plan with your small group and send out the podcast videos for members to watch on their own time. Then, when you gather, dive into conversations about what God is revealing to each of you. Base Camp is more than a resource library. It's a tool for building redemptive brotherhood on the road to experiencing more life, more love, and freedom with God. Start your journey today, explore Basecamp, and reach out to us at allies@zoe.org if you have any further questions.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast. And that last break, talking about Basecamp and allies, and man, hopefully it's a place that you men will explore, and I hope engage and sign on.
Man, we have
allies.
We have a Wednesday Zoom group with guys all over, but there's a couple of those yahoos that are just like, you know what? I know I'm still on this journey of getting my heart back and all that, but I'm starting a group, dadgummit, because I need guys in my life.
If you wait till you're
healed,
ready, or you wait till you're healed, you may be waiting.
All right.
But I think those guys in Minnesota, shout outs to David and Sean. They are. They're jumping right in.
Mm-hmm.
So
we just want to create resources to make that easier for you. So check out Basecamp.
Yeah. So one of my more embarrassing stories of a story from my oldest, who's now 31, but she remembers. We were walking out of church. I think she was about 8, 7, and was very intrigued and entertained by her flip-flops. They were sandals, kind of dress sandals, flapping, making that flip-flop sound on her heels.
Flip-flop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she remembers me, stopping, firmly having when it going from the hand holding to an arm grab, and talking through my teeth. She remembers. I don't remember that specific Sunday, but I do remember that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's not just plausible. It was a reality for her.
Yeah, so, I got a couple like that with Stephen too, where it's like, buddy, I'm sorry, I don't remember that, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen because I know I was like that. Yep.
And that's maybe the tip of the top of a list, or the tip of an iceberg in terms of the wounding. And so, this episode is a bit about wounding less. This episode's until you get rid of this is great. Let me circle back. Until you deal with that angry guy, and until you recover,
that passive guy or whatever he looked like,
But until you begin to experience, some deeper healing, that guy, that false self, that caricature, that false self, part of you that's not you, but is at work in you, is gonna make sure there's lots of those moments.
Yeah.
So, so we've kind of put together in a conversation offline some different things, and I want to. You mentioned the apology. I want to come back to that last. I'd like to hit that last on our list. But one of the things that has just been overarchingly helpful for me as a dad, and for you, for dads, for this role of dad, has been to kind of change the operational way that we move and move more towards, instead of telling them, right? You said behavior a minute ago. Great word. Instead of telling them how to think or feel, be way more curious about what they think and feel and why they think and feel that way. And, instead of that snap finger, get them in line, you're starting to then move more and more into their world and their heart and what they're thinking. I think just as quick as I shared the story about Ashley was, why couldn't I have enjoyed that moment with her?
Moment of play.
Why not say, you know what, that's a fun sound, isn't it? Not even available, I don't think, in that moment. Or hey, let's see what happens when I lift you up and you do them both at the same time, or just to enter in, right? Or what do you love about that sound? Look what you can do. I mean, I can think of 10 things right now.
Of course you can.
That would be so much better of
course you can.
Rather than demanding a compliance, rather entering in to what they're thinking,
which
what they're feeling.
And it's like, I love that you said it wasn't necessarily available, because I don't know what 38-year-old Michael was experiencing then. You could have been going through a financial issue.
Yeah.
There could have been a health issue going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But it's hard to think about all the moments that we missed and give ourselves grace for where we were in those moments, right? Yeah. So it's not just a matter of, wow, Dad, I can't believe you talk to your kid that way. You can do better.
Right. Right.
And I'm not saying that's what you're saying. No. I just know that has been said by others. It's been said to me.
Oh, Father's Day
without any recognition of or acknowledgement of the need for empathy to the 30, 40-year-old dad who's just trying to figure out how to get the mortgage paid.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because you're under that stress as the king of your family, that it's okay for you to grab your kid and speak to him through gritted teeth. Right. It's not okay. Yeah. There is a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I want to recognize that dads carry a lot.
Yeah, no doubt.
No doubt.
So
it's what makes it so hard. We talked about it being one of the best and one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Yeah, 100% to all that. I agree, 1,000%. I think the part that you're talking about that pertains to them, and I think we both gave examples of, we don't really remember that. They do.
Oh, yeah.
So however big a deal your mortgage was that day.
I know it. I know it. No,
here comes this reality.
So glad you said that.
For them.
Right. Because it's their reality, what they experienced. And again, as a good king, sometimes that means you have to put aside your needs and your wants and your desires and how you felt that day for the benefit of those under your care.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that we could fill the room with dads, and we could show clips of these things. Hit pause, or like we were watching game film. I did a lot of game film in high school, but especially in college basketball and after. Lots of film. So what are you doing here now? After the game, that game film is something that's happened. So coach is like, Thompson, what
were you thinking?
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
When have we ever taught that? Just stuff that you're just like.
I can tell by the way you said that that's exactly what your coach said.
Oh, I had a few of those. Yeah. What play is that? What are you running? Do you look at the clock?
I'm laughing because it's funny now. It wasn't funny.
You're going on a fast break, and we're trying to drain 2 minutes and win this ball game. I don't know what you're thinking out there.
So what's so interesting is that you brought the game film up. That guy is a father figure to you in that moment.
Sure.
Like, how could he have handled your heart better?
Yeah, very.
He's never watching.
Coaches
film,
back in the '80s, were not. They were stepfather figures.
Yeah. So if we had let's say we had 100 dads in the room and we're watching the game film
of that on the sidewalk, we would all
flip-flops.
We would all come up with those kind of plays. You could have done this. You could have done that. You could so how do you? Even what we're going to share here is, but how does that come available to you in the moment?
How do we make it?
It's instinctive.
It's the now.
Where it's the reality. It's the way that you're going to roll.
Yes.
And I think, telling you this is the same crime that we committed with our kids. Telling dads how to think and feel and how to do this differently. There's got to be some good core, work. To your point about the mortgage. Well, I know now. I would say to that 38-year-old me, let's do game film on me to him. Hey, buddy, it's going to be okay. You're gonna find a home equity line. It's actually going to find you in a few months, and you're going to get that taken care of. You'll pay for it for a couple years, but it's going to be fine.
And I will just tell you, 38-year-old me, that's way less important
Right.
than this moment for your child's heart.
Yeah.
Way less important. I know it seems like it's the world.
Yeah.
Longer term, you're going to forget about that mortgage. You're forget about not making that payment or that credit report, or you're going to forget about it.
Yeah.
You're not going to forget about the way you treated your child's heart, because she's not going to forget about it.
So let me be real facetious here. And say, and man, just for 5 more years. Okay, no, just for 8 more years.
Stick it out.
Like when does your you said it earlier, when does your mortgage and your health, your diagnosis, when does that justify acting that way? You're 60, she's 31. It's not flip-flops or sandals on the sidewalk, but this can go on for 25 more years.
Right.
You know, and I think we've explored with our being sons of fathers and mothers. Yeah, it can go on. It can definitely go on and on and on, unless something shifts within the heart of that dad or that mom. So,
until there's a desire for a different result. Yeah. The interesting thing too about the game film analogy is, like, you know, you're sitting and you're watching it, and I'm let's say I'm your teammate. Let's say I'm your teammate, and the coach is railing you for, like, Thompson, what the heck is that? You know, where did we come up with that play? And I'm sitting there going, yeah, Thompson, what is that? And then it's like, hey, Jennings, it's your turn now.
No, you get trained pretty quick, so you're just kind of glad he's talking to Thompson,
but
because
the point is, we've all got the game film. We've all got the game film.
And are you watching it? Are you concerned about it? Yeah. And not for the criticism that's there, but is there something there for you to see that you don't see? And I think as we invite men back in their stories for their hearts and for recovery, you know, our kids are living that out and going forward through those years that we were daddy and then dad. And so I think the first place to really,
you said it earlier, how do we close the gap?
Yeah.
Right.
Kiri, I would say the number one skill, ability that has helped me the most, other than getting my own heart back, getting fathered by God, being loved by God, it actually equips me then to love others, particularly those that have been entrusted to me to love, my wife, my children. And so close second is, I would say, asking questions. By far, one of the most impactful ways to slow things down, to engage, because as we said in the previous podcast, little hearts and big hearts still. I'm 60 years old. I'm going home to Oklahoma to see my dad, and I'm telling you, I will sit at that kitchen table, and something will happen in the environment, and I'll feel 14. And so if that can happen to me, it can happen to Stephen, to my girl. It can happen to them. I don't think that's weird. I think there's something about the reality of that. So I got to take one of my girls out for a couple days to just be together and muck around. And it always matters where we go. Sometimes it's just a place to go hike and enjoy food and get away. Sometimes they're more extravagant in terms of Montana and horseback riding, or something like that. But I said to her, I said, I texted her. I said, I'm so looking forward to our time. I got 100 questions, all caps back. Really?
Oh, yeah. So what is that?
Wait.
Yeah, dude. Do you see me? Do you love what you see?
Do
right?
You want to be with me?
100%. Way to go.
And
that's a good game film moment. Way to go.
and she held me to it. It wasn't like she forgot. Like,
right.
What
are your questions?
Now we're together. Like, yeah let's do the question stuff. And I was like, okay. Know. And so, I think, but being curious, and there's so much to this. In the beginning of this chapter of in King Me, there's a great story about our friend Jay Stott. And this is chapter 16, Heirs to the Throne. And I tell Jay's story of having a daddy-daughter date, like I did, with a 31-year-old, but he's with his 8-year-old girl, McDonald's Saturday morning not Happy Meals, breakfast. Her feet can't even hit the hit the floor.
Yeah.
But Jay gets pulled away, distracted, right, by his phone. And she gets up, comes around. He notices her sitting right there. She reaches up, cups his face, and says, "Daddy, listen to me. Ask me anything."
Man. Yeah.
And I think
that's the core of it.
I want that from my dad. I wanted that from my mom when she. So if you'll even get in touch with the desires of your heart as a man, right? And you said it, we carry a lot. Not a lot of people are asking us, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing really?
Man.
And that's why when somebody does, like, time out. Thank you.
Oh, man.
Not the kind
100%.
Not the kind that you're passing in the church.
No. How's it going, buddy? No, not that.
No.
Not that.
I'm talking about the kind that's repeated a couple times. Like, no, how are you?
Just got back from a camping trip, and so it's time around fire pits and things like that.
Yeah.
And these camping trips have turned into, we invite some other people to go, or just kind of put it out there, and guys and couples show up, And so we had a moment where it was just me and one other guy, my friend Jevin.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah, man, and had that moment, man. We were by the fire, and he just said, when's the last time somebody asked you how you're doing? How's SJ? And I almost didn't know how to respond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just because you just get used to not being asked that question, to some degree, and. So it took me a second. Yeah, thank you for asking. I got to think about it.
Then, the dilemma now is what, and that was what was really special. By the way, I'm so glad Jevin did that. But with my daughter, she is good at also asking. So I'm actually very aware now that what I ask her could come back.
Yeah, Stephen's gotten better at that too.
What about you, Dad?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Right.
Well, what do you think? What happened to you? She's gotten curious too over these years, and it's we'll have a conversation for an hour, on a subject or two. And I'm thinking, if you're a dad and you're listening to me, like you get to talk to your daughter for an hour.
What are you talking about?
I was like, bro, look, that was hard fought, hard-earned recovery over some of those sidewalk moments, where I wasn't trusted, and I wasn't safe.
Oh man.
And I wasn't, somebody who, she wanted to have a conversation. And I'm not just talking about one. All three of mine had some pretty good stories that are regretful.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned in the last episode, the Father's Day where you were reading the cards and you're like, I think you're giving this to me because you feel like you have to, but you don't really think these things.
Yeah.
And that was, a conviction that came upon, or a revelation, let's call it, rather than a conviction. Right.
Yeah.
And so those moments, we talk so much about exercising our will. Right. And understanding how the kingdom works and being willing to say, no, I got to do something different here, and I'm going to find out what that is, And so you have that moment of, I wish this was going better. And I think many dads are just, they feel either hamstrung or disqualified or
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's kind of that deer in the headlights. I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything, because at least if I don't do anything, I'm not going to make it worse.
Which passivity is not a good
no.
a good plan.
It resolves nothing.
Disengaging, unengaging. You brought up the Father's Day, and I was thinking as you said it, I said either that was either one of my best days or worst days. It depends.
Might be both.
Right? When I knew what was our reality was as a family, but here's a day where there's some obligation to write and do cards, sit around and open them.
Right. Here's your best dad ever mug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It did not feel true.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard, but it was the beginning of, all right, how do we, like you just said, how do we make things different? And one talk or an announcement is not what we're talking about. So learning how to ask questions, SJ, has really, really been really important. And, I've got an oldest, a middle, and a youngest. They fit some of that profile stuff. They all operate differently. They all are very differently hardwired.
Mm-hmm.
And so even the kind of questions, you just don't always get a 3-for-1. I mean, how are you is good. How are you really? But the other thing that I think is available to a dad in questions, and man, if you have to take notes on your phone or do it.
Yeah.
But because I think the amount of information that we are consuming and the amount of information that we're processing and all that, our kids can get, and their information can get lost in a bit. So let me tell you what I mean. So, a couple weeks ago, one of my children is getting a certification. Okay. Remember that.
Right.
They're not going to necessarily as adults calling and say, hey, I passed my tests or, but when you can take information, that's what some of the questions are about, is for you to stay engaged, to stay in their story and that therefore to know what is going on in their story.
Right.
Now, asking them about who they're dating or how their marriage is going and stuff, that's usually not my lead-off pitch.
Yeah, no. No, that's information you want to create the environment that they want to share that with you.
Yeah, exactly. But I had a list of some things that I feel like are just tremendous basic questions, okay? So, and I'm going to ask you about Stephen. This will be a little Q&A.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Not a test.
A little bit. A little bit.
Okay.
Quiz. Yeah, we'll downgrade it to a quiz.
Pop quiz. Oh, my favorite. Pop quiz.
So, what music does he love?
He loves Celtic, Irish, pub music. He loves bluegrass.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
How many dads know the music that their children are listening to? What's on their playlists? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a great example, and just like you and I, we might move from some different genres and playlists, and I'll tell you the secret place to go: the car.
Oh yeah.
Give them the station. Give them the Bluetooth. Give them just.
Hey, I'm driving. Why don't you run the radio? Yeah.
And play some of your favorite stuff right now.
What's your top 10?
So I find out recently, one of my kids is into country, and we're listening to Chris Stapleton. I'm like, and Shabuzi. I'm like, I love. Like, Dad, you know these guys?
Yeah.
I'm singing along. Yeah, I know these guys.
Yeah, man.
And so it was a great moment. But what are they listening to?
Right.
What music do they love? So if you start to hear...
Great way to open the door to deeper conversations.
Why? So when they start... why do you like it? when did you? I mean, you can find the next questions for the conversation if you're kind of on your game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So remember, dads, up here in the background of your thoughts, do you see me?
Yes.
Do you love what you see? It's not just. It's not about the music.
No.
It's about pursuing them and answering that question.
And if they play something real dark,
yeah.
your response should not be, "What the hell is that?"
Death metal,
Yes.
screamo music.
Right?
Yeah.
It's still the question, like, tell me more about
What
that.
do
That's
you love
so
about
interesting.
that? Yeah.
I've never heard of those guys. I've had, my youngest has turned me on to the Bleachers, 1792, October somebody. And I have them in my place, and I'll take screenshots and send them to her now. And she's like, "Yeah, that's a good, one, Dad." Which is another thing I'll get to in a minute about texting and communication. Okay, great job with Stevens. What shows are they watching?
Yeah,
what
right
series
now,
or films are they watching?
Right now, they have embarked on a journey of watching Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Aren't you the happy dad?
Just
That's
Sherry and I watched that show back in the day. But I mean, to tell you how long ago that was on, I used to set up the VCR to record it if we were going to miss it.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So but I remember it, and I was like, "Don't even bother with the first season. It sucks. Just go straight to the second season." And he's like, "Dad, you're so right." Anyway,
okay, so this is a little cunning, and maybe in to this question. Look, man, if you share an account, if you share Netflix and they have different
you can
profiles,
see what they've been watching.
You can see.
Yeah.
But I would be careful about, hey, I see you're watching.
Right.
Or
it
hey,
can be a little creepy. Yeah.
So it's better to ask and be told than to, get your.
But you got a little insider baseball going on if you see it. Then ask them.
Yeah,
right?
One of my favorite stories in my recovering fatherhood. We got to figure out a way to make that a title somewhere. Recovering fatherhood. But in my recovering fatherhood, you know this story because it's been fun. A few years ago, I find out my youngest is watching Hard Knocks with the Dolphins, but with the Lions when the Detroit Lions came on, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, and she fell in love with that team
because of all the profile information and the players, and you get to know them and their struggles, their marriages, their injuries, their children, all of that stuff. So yeah, and the intel has been, all right, if it's a birthday or Christmas, she gets a Lions sweatshirt. If there's opportunity there. So these are kind of in the questions are kind of in the who are their favorites. So I'm saying not only did I find out what she's watching, one of my other questions is, what teams do they follow?
Yeah.
And they may not follow any. Maybe that's not where you go. But I got to take her to a Detroit Lion football game last season.
Yes.
For one of these getaway trips with my older adult children. Man, we both were 14.
Yeah, man.
She's much closer to 14, at 26 than I am.
Sure.
But we both were there as fans.
Yeah.
And know So not only what can you listen to, what can you watch? What are they watching? How can you share that ground? How can you enter into the spaces that they're in? And what does that look like? So good job with the shows. What are they reading?
Yes. Autumn, I can tell you, is reading a lot of academic books about archaeology because she's working on her dissertation.
Oh yeah.
So yes.
Like I would want a coffee table book of that version. Like I would love to look.
Oh, for sure.
And read the little captions, but to read some textbook stuff.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But yeah, she's doing it. And Stephen, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I'm going to see him at dinner tonight, so I'll ask him.
What are you reading?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine are all readers, and so. I got the prequels. So one of mine is reading The Hunger Games, which is the prequel. It's how Snow became President Snow. So I'm reading that with her. I've read some other some other books with my my other daughter. My middle one, trying to keep the girls' names out of it all, but I was rereading one of the Harry Potter books because I just was. so she started reading. Now she's reading all of them, and I can't keep up with her. But I can ask her, back to asking questions. Hey, where are you?
Yeah.
In Half-Blood Prince.
Right.
Oh, Dad, this just happened, and awesome. What about, and it's not, there's no spoiler alerts because she's seen the films. She's read these books before.
It's just fun.
But we're just talking.
Meeting them where they are.
And hearing her say, I can't believe they left this part out of the movie. Right? Why were they thinking?
Right.
So this new HBO series that's going to be The Potter, they're taking each book and making it a season.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that.
I mean, that's going to be, I can't wait. It's going to be something
that might inspire me to subscribe to HBO.
So good, but what are they reading? Food.
Yeah.
Favorite foods to eat, favorite restaurants, especially when they get older, they're in another city or somewhere, right? It's just what I got to make dinner with one of my daughters not too long ago. That was just the two of us. It was a blast. Get to Whole Foods, get the stuff wherever, and so it was a big production, and we took pictures of it, right, and ate.
Yeah, Sherry's, as you know, Sherry's a prolific baker, and so sourdough. She makes her own sourdough crackers, bread, everything. So
I'm a beneficiary of some of that.
Yeah, you
yes.
are. So Autumn asked one day, "Hey, can I talk to you about making my own bread?" And Sherry was like, so excited, and now they'll text us pictures of, hey, look, we tried to make sourdough buns, and they're Franken buns because they look weird, and here's there you can repurpose that. And so, man, it's fun.
These are all questions with a purpose of getting into their world.
Yeah.
And man, if you can do it when they're 6, 7, and 8, what music do they like? What are they watching? Who are they talking to? All those things, those are just, I think these are very, very helpful. I think when they're older, how's work? What's going on at work?
Right.
And if you can, and I struggle sometimes with this, but keeping all the names straight, of who they're talking about, and if they're willing to give you some of the information about work and who's bothering them and why it's hard, these are great.
Yeah.
Great conversation pieces, especially, again, make some notes.
Seriously, don't feel bad about making notes.
No.
I only have one kid and I make notes, plus Autumn and then Colby and Noah too. So I've got kids in my arena, but don't feel bad about taking some notes about things. We have a lot going on.
What are our kids looking forward to? So there's some calendar things. We got graduations and stuff and merit and weddings and things going on May, June, stuff like that. So those are things that can kind of be on the calendar that are ahead.
Yeah.
And we have a family trip coming up to our 35th anniversary. So we're all going to be together on a family getaway for that. Robin and I's anniversary, early June. So right about time this drops. So what is the calendar showing you? What's the calendar inviting you?
Where do you guys see yourselves in 5 years, right? And again, that's a question you have to work your way up to that.
Yeah.
Because it can come across as, when are you going to get stuff figured out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Get it. Yeah.
But Stephen and Autumn and Sherry and I, we talk about, they want to buy a piece of land. They want to relocate back to North Carolina, which they can't do until she's done with the doctorate program.
Yeah.
So it's 5 years in the future.
Yeah.
So what are you hopeful for in having a big chunk of land, And he rattles off all these things, and so the short term and the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. The if game is a great question game,
Right.
If this, then that. If you were given $1 million,
what'd you do?
Yeah. If you were on a stranded on an island,
yeah.
If you were, Chevy or Ford.
I did that with Steve. Stephen. After we did our advance, we do the rich uncle exercise. Yeah. If you found out you had a rich uncle, so I did that with him, and he's like, "Wait, do we have a rich uncle?" I said, "I'm not sure."
Yeah.
I don't think so. But
so I'm putting all of that under this huge Roman numeral of questions and curiosity, and moving towards them. I think the next ones are just pretty simple, but very profound. And I would say it's communication, but particularly writing. You write them an email, write them a text,
dude,
write them a card, write things down and mail it to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
put a stamp on it.
If you know their address.
Yeah, man.
So, your wife does probably. So but communicate thought of you. We do that with each other on the ongoing morning. Hey, this worship song, this devotional.
Yeah, this found me this morning, made me think of you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important thing to be in front of them with your words and your presence. That's what they needed when they were little. That's what they need when they're big.
100%. And I'll give you a great example, man. And Sherry found it. Sherry came up with the idea probably 25 years ago when Stephen was a little guy. We write letters to each other every Christmas.
Yeah, and
and we don't put them in mail because we're usually together. We put them in the tree. And I just thought of this again too. When Stephen was a little guy, I would fold his letter up into the shape of a paper airplane, so that he could then he also have a plane. He still folds them up like paper airplanes and puts them in the tree, and he's 30 years old.
That's great. I love it.
But yeah, write him a letter. Take the time to do that.
Writing,
for sure.
writing. Your words matter. Texting them is a great way to invade. And don't have an agenda. That's tricky. I mean, I sometimes look forward to hearing back from when I send something funny. Did they think it was funny? But to get in front of them, and then the last one. If I could lean in on this camera, and I would say this is critical, and they don't need to know this or not. They don't have to know. But if you're not praying for your kids on the daily, praying over your kids on the daily, and praying against the enemy that opposes your kids, then you need to get on your horse.
Yeah. Exercise your will.
Because you're still dad. And in the spiritual realm and the system there that God made, you are the dad. You're the father. Now, the older your kids get, the more their wills matter. Mm-hmm. And the consequences of their choices matter. When they're younger, you're trying to help them learn how to make choices. But still, when you're older, you have this trump card as a dad that you can pray for them, even if they're in Egypt, prodigal, far off.
Right. Even if they would say, I don't care if you pray for me. Pray for them anyway.
Yeah. Now, if you have favor in that space,
mm-hmm.
I would say just to bump it a bit is to pray with them. Like, can I pray for you? And then do it. Let them hear your voice. Hold their hand.
Yes.
Put your hand on their shoulder.
Sure.
Put your hand on their knee.
And the half step, right, might be a message. How can I be praying for you? Or how can I pray for you today?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, however that's going to work, for you, 100%.
And if you want to know what I want to interrupt, sorry, but
it's okay.
But
I interrupted you, so it's okay.
No, you go.
No, you go.
If you want to know how to pray, the kind of way we're talking about praying, authoritative, you don't have to yell, but strategically, then you need to get a hold of the daily prayer. Mm-hmm. You need to go to zoe.org/daily prayer.
Yep.
And download that thing. Mm-hmm. And it will show you the kind of paragraphs, the kind of sentences, mm-hmm. the kind of structures that that's how you should be praying, mm-hmm. including them and over them, exercising your role as a father, their father, in the spiritual realm, and to whatever extent, you have authority in the spiritual realm over the foul spirits. I believe, you want to exercise those on behalf of your kids.
You got to understand
as
that
much as you can.
Your authority goes beyond, just paying the mortgage, right? And putting a roof over their heads.
Or if they're older, giving them some help here and there.
So it goes way beyond that.
And then lastly, you brought it up earlier, and I do think this is big category that is just about what apology looks like.
Thank you for circling back to that. Because man, I think we can all think of those moments like we started this episode with the game film mm-hmm. that we'd like to go back and do over again. Yeah. And I think because I'll count myself among them. You know, a lot of dads just don't know how. They know those moments and they kind of wince when they think about them, but they just don't know what to do to try to recover that ground. And I would say, number one, man, be cunning, right, and be careful.
Timing
and move slowly.
Timing matters,
right? But apologize. And apologies don't include the word "but."
Yeah.
Hey, I'm so sorry I yelled at you for your flip-flops, but the mortgage was due that day, and I didn't have, no.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to imply that was the reality.
No,
I'm just
but
making an example, right?
It's a great, no excuses, no corrections.
Yeah, just, hey, you know what? That was wrong.
Yeah.
I blew it, and I'm so sorry.
And that, we'll see. We'll see if that repairs things. We'll see if that heals things. It's still important.
Absolutely.
To acknowledge and own your, whatever your side was.
Yeah, there's the push-up, let's call it that, that's involved in that, right? The discipline that's involved in exercising your will and apologizing in that way it's a bit humiliating, right?
Humbling, for sure.
Humbling, humiliating, same idea, right? So it's like you're admitting you did something that you're either ashamed of, it was wrong, whatever it is.
Right.
So the push-up part of that I'm talking about, the discipline part of that is you feel that when you didn't necessarily enter into those feelings when it happened. So you're entering into a moment where you feel the impact of what it is that you did that was not good for your kid's heart. That is one of the first steps in moving towards, like we talked about earlier, closing the gap between the moment that happens that you wish it could go differently, and recognizing it should have gone differently and that wasn't the right thing to say, do, whatever it was. So if you start doing that for things that you remember in the past, when the time is right, when you can be careful, when all of that, you start entering into that and entering back into the recognition and accepting the responsibility and feeling the weight of the mistake that you made. Man, I'm telling you, that gap starts to close between when you do something you wish you hadn't and your ability to go back and say, whoa, I'm so sorry.
Real time.
That was wrong. Absolutely.
More real time. Yeah, the sincerity. I love what you're describing because it brings a sincerity. Because there is this, you apologize to them because you did this.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, there's a sincerity to this. And there's a couple, so all of this, okay, before I say all of this, just a couple real practical, very, very technical things. I do think it's more important to say, I want to apologize for something than say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I would not advise any dad to stick on there the beginning, hey, would you forgive me for?
No.
That's really
it comes
not
with
yours.
Conditions.
Yes. So I just am saying technically, I'm encouraging our dads to hey, something came up the other day.
Yeah, we want you to make this shot.
God made me aware of something. Mm-hmm. So that brings me all of this. All of this episode, all of this series, I want to put in a box like you would a game. Right, in a box, and it's a walking with God thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it all in the box, take it all out of the box. I mean, but the box is really this whole idea of asking Jesus, asking the Father, walking with the Holy Spirit, bringing them in. That if you can start playing that way with all of these things, questions, God, what should I ask her? Where is her heart? What is he feeling about the big wrestling tournament? What? And if you just get fine, and I don't really want to talk about it, Dad, fine.
The timing's not right. They're not ready yet.
Hey, man,
there's a lot of variables.
I get emails and calls from people that I am not answering, and I'm not saying they're solicitors. Dude, if you have to be a solicitor, Dad, for a while, wear them down. Don't be annoying, but yes, try to just press into that, but continue to walk with God for your heart. That's still number one as we wrap this up. But bring all this into that context of, I need your help, God. I
need you to father me.
I need your help. Father me.
Mm-hmm.
And these encouragements that we've tried to lay down over, and these perspectives we've tried to give over the last few weeks, and until they're tried, how these look in your life? How these look with your kids?
Yeah.
How these play?
If you two things, not to always bring it back to basketball, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you can't get one in a row until you try.
Take the first one. That's right.
That's
right. The hitting, the shooting streaks, the hitting streaks, all that.
Start with one in
a row. So, yeah, I hope this is equipping. I hope this is encouraging. And I would say that as much as the enemy is set against your fatherhood, there's a God who has given your fatherhood a namesake. I mean, he is the Father. And my kids have in them literally my physical DNA, and there's a spiritual cord DNA in them that, like I said, I'm going to go see my dad. I'm still his son. I'll sit at that table, and that will not resurrect. It's not dead. That will get turned up.
Yeah.
In that dynamic. And so there are some things in your favor, as much, men, as it might feel like they're so much against you. There is, at a fundamental and foundational level, some things for you in this dynamic. And to get that stuff that opposes your fatherhood out of the way. I mean, what do you want it to look like? You just said about asking your kids in 5 years. What do you want it to look like in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years? And start clearing the ground.
Set the vision.
Pull the weeds.
For your fatherhood and your family.
Kill the snakes. Whatever you need to in the garden of their heart. Whatever you need to do to plant and to cultivate there, do it.
Yeah.
I think King Me's a great investment. I think to get to that chapter of the reign of a king, where it's your wife, could be your ex-wife, your children, and the enemy. Those are those last 3 chapters in King Me, and I'd say, man, get on that. And in terms of the first chapter of the book, that's about you, because it's you they need. It's you they need. And so I think King Me's a good fathering book. We'll have to change the title sometime and put a new cover on it and just keep the book the same.
Well, I mean, recovering fatherhood is pretty good.
Pretty good. Kingdom fathering, kingdom fatherhood. So,
yeah. We'll talk more about that. Yeah. But hey, leave us a comment, leave us a question, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
So accept a little bit of time, and hopefully it's been helpful.
Yeah. Have a great Father's Day, and we'll see you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoe.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoe on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoe on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.